you very much, Catherine and Robert from eConnect for this invitation and for bringing us all together this morning in Strathclyde, which is in itself the heart of innovation in Scotland, along with Heriot-Watt, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, Dundee universities. They're all playing a part in innovation in Scotland. And a particular welcome to those of you who've come from far afield. I gather that we have visitors from Switzerland, Marianne and Conradin, and Sean and Maureen from Ireland. You're all extremely welcome, and people from England. For the avoidance of any possible doubt, you're extremely welcome in Scotland, especially when you spend lots of money here. I am Tourism Minister as well as being responsible for business and energy, and we've, just as you will know, have come out of a general election where we sort of scraped a result. But during the campaign, I was accosted in my constituency in Inverness High Street by a somewhat agitated gentleman who addressed me thus. He said, "You're Fergus Ewing, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." "You're Minister for Tourism, aren't you?" I said, "That's me." "I'm not voting for you," he said. I said, "May I ask, sir, why not?" And he said, "Because there's too many tourists in the Highlands. You're spoiling them." So I thought that was a kind of the best backhanded compliment that the Minister for Tourism could have. And tourism and energy are, I think, friends in policy terms. I was once asked in the course of an afternoon where I had visited Glenkinchie Distillery in Edinburgh in the morning. I was once asked by somebody, "Can you give me any single example of people coming to visit Scotland as tourists who come here because of wind turbines?" And I said, "Well, actually, yes, I can, because this morning I was at Glenkinchie Distillery, and I know Johnny Adringa is here somewhere from Gaia Wind. And as it so happened, that morning I met a deputation of 22 young people from a Danish university who had come to Scotland specifically to visit Gaia Wind, who manufacture small wind turbines in this city." Isn't that interesting? And we hope to see a marine energy centre near John O'Groats, the site of next year what we hope will be the world's largest commercial tidal array, which is being taken forward by Maygen. But this morning, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about innovation, and especially in relation to the low-carbon economy. And innovation is at the heart of our vision for Scotland. And I hope that the rhetoric is matched by commitment in funding and effort of individuals, public servants, and especially our universities. And the Scottish Funding Council is contributing up to 124 million over 6 years in the Innovation Centre programme. There are 8 centres that will share the £124 million over the 6 years. And the areas that we've decided to focus on are stratified medicine, sensors and imaging systems, digital health, industrial biotechnology, oil and gas, big data, construction and aquaculture. Totally disparate sectors, but all connected because of the extraordinary innovation that is going on in each of them throughout Scotland to great effect. Just yesterday I visited a company called Ice Robotics in Dalmeny. You could see from the green fields in which their offices are located the Forth rail bridge, and they devised a system now sold in 23 countries in the world called Cow Alert. And Cow Alert is a sensor which is affixed to the rear leg of a dairy cow, and it serves 2 purposes. One, to detect how long the cow spends on the ground. Apparently 12 hours is the optimum time out of 24 hours for a cow to lie down, because that is the best time for the maximum production of milk. And it also detects heat in the cow's body, and that can tell when the cow is, shall we say, ready, and therefore assists the process of identifying when a cow is ready for artificial insemination to produce the maximum of additional cows in the future. And that's been done from Dalmeny, 23 countries in the world. The use of sensors for agriculture. Isn't that an extraordinary innovation? Who would have thought of it? Cow alert. All the staff wear cow alert on their t-shirts, male and female. That actually wasn't... some of you are drawing conclusions that I wouldn't possibly endorse, but that wasn't in the script, incidentally. But we are focusing on low carbon this morning. We have, I think, a reasonable track record in Scotland, but we want to do a lot more. We've set targets. It's easy to set targets. I mean, the dartboard is a target. There it is on the wall. You put it up. It's no problem. It's easy, isn't it? But the targets, I think, have had an effect. The targets to reduce our consumption by 12%, to use less energy is as important as making it more efficient, to reduce our consumption by 12% by 2020, 11% of non-electrical heat demand to be delivered by renewable sources by 2020, and the equivalent of 100% of Scotland's electricity consumption to be delivered by renewable sources by 2020. Now, are these targets working? Well, I would say yes, they are, because they send a signal. They send a signal to Europe, to the Commission, which is important. They send a signal to the world. What sort of country are we? Where do we want to go? Do we really support renewables? Are we just paying lip service? And do we back it up, the warm words, with the backup funding and the policy support and the effort? And I hope that we do. And I think particularly the 100% target has seen extraordinary success. We now, last year, 2014, delivered 49.6% of gross electricity consumption in Scotland from renewable sources. Mostly onshore wind, but also hydro, biomass, anaerobic digestion, and other sources. So 49.6% from a tiny proportion of that 10 years ago. The progress over 10 years has taken us to 7 gigawatts of capacity, of renewable capacity in Scotland. And that has partly been because, and this is my clear impression, that the investment community, and there's many here from the investment community, angels, venture capitalists, banks, and Andrew Smith from our Renewable Energy Investment Fund, which has £103 million in it, is here today. The investor community sees Scotland as a friend of renewable energy. And I'm afraid to say, without going into politicals, they don't really see that down south. And, you know, for a government to succeed in any policy, you need to be consistent. You cannot chop and change, because if you do, then investors and those who make the decisions on boards, involving very often tens, if not hundreds of millions of pounds, will put their money elsewhere. And therefore, it's very, very important to tell it straight, but to retain consistency. So I think the targets have served us fairly well, but we've got a lot more to do. There are 20,200 jobs in renewables, direct and indirect, in Scotland, accounting for 13.5 billion of private investment since 2010. That's a lot of investment. There's a lot more in the pipeline. And we believe, incidentally, that there is much more scope for onshore wind to play a part in that. Presently, there's around about £2 to £3 billion of investment planned for onshore wind, and I very much hope that I will have the opportunity soon to engage with the new Cabinet Secretary for Energy, Amber Rudd, to take forward our discussions about how Scotland can perhaps help the rest of the UK achieve their climate change targets to which they're committed. But we can't be complacent, and that's why low-carbon innovators, like so many of you here today, need to continue to develop your products, and why we need to do what we can to support you in a practical way, remembering that money has to be used to best effect, and we can't hand out money as we would like to everybody. We need to make sure that we do it to absolute best effect. And there is an innate tension between that, which of course you accept, but we are very keen to support you in the work that you do in the innovatory work, and it's absolutely key for our economic priorities. I wanted to say that I think the success we've had in the use of energy, in cutting our use of energy, and in making it more green, more low carbon, has been hugely assisted by Resource Efficient Scotland. Resource Efficient Scotland has delivered advice and support to 33,000 organisations to realise over £49 million in savings, 910 gigawatt hours of lifetime energy savings through applied better resource. And that has been since 2013. So that's in 2 years, 33,000 organisations assisted. That's pretty good. So many thanks to those of you here from Resource Efficient Scotland. One of the key and very simple policy measures we've asked them to implement, and which they have, is providing interest-free loans of up to £100,000 for installation of resource efficiency measures. And interest-free loans are very popular. Although the bank rate's about zero, the banks don't give you interest-free loans, although logically they should nearly do so. Somehow they don't. But we do. And therefore, businesses like Rowan Timber, a family-run business in Airdrie, who used the loan to invest in energy efficiency machinery, are saving £25,000 a year. The Cregans Hotel in Strathclyde, formerly owned by the famous Sir Fitzroy MacLean, invested £71,000 in a biomass plant for its own energy needs. £71,000 interest-free loan. They saved £25,000 a year. I visited a hairdresser's shop in Inverurie, who've cut their energy use by over half. I visited a hotel in the Northwest Highlands, who have done just about every conceivable thing you could do, a lot of capital investment, but with interest-free loan. They've cut their energy savings by nearly 80%. Quite extraordinary success. Malcolm's, the distribution logistics company, sceptical at first, introduced a whole plan to cut their use of diesel, in particular, by asking their drivers to drive in a more fuel-efficient way. They put one person in charge of it in Malcolm's to drive it forward. In other words, one person had the job of delivering the plan. And that one person managed to inculcate the discipline required to get all of the team to play it. That hotel in the West Highlands, incidentally, the reason they succeed is because the staff don't get hot water for their showers and their accommodation unless they keep the biomass boiler going. So there's a sort of, there's ways and means, isn't there? But the point is that, and what I hope to demonstrate by those three examples is, it's amazing what you can achieve if you set your mind to it in an orderly, strategic, coherent, but kind of disciplined fashion. Don't expect miracles unless all of these things occur. But there's much more we can do there. So that's exactly what we will try to do. But of course, there's huge potential over the years ahead. The public sector, and we'll hear from Alistair Watson later, and he will talk in more detail about this, but local authorities are doing great things in relation to the National Street Lighting Programme. I imagine that Alistair may touch on that, but planning to invest 150 million Scottish councils over the next 4 years to LED lighting. We're developing a non-domestic energy efficiency procurement framework for the Scottish public sector for use by autumn 2015. And what does that mean? Well, we're using far too much energy. Have you recently been in a public building in Scotland that's underheated? Don't think I have. Well, why? I mean, for goodness sake, there's huge scope in our public buildings to cut our energy usage and do things more efficiently. And there are many private sector companies whose job it is to deliver these results. And we want it to be done with input from the private sector in that way. I wanted to talk about heat. Many of the companies here today and up for awards. Good luck to you all. But many of you are involved in the heat sector. I know there's actually too many. I would read them out in the interest of garnering votes, but I think there's perhaps even the list is too long for even me to do that other than a sort of shamefaced fashion. But I've read through all of the companies here, and there's a terrific array of innovation. So I just wanted to say that we recognise that each individual company has made a journey, probably with a lot of effort and expense, that delivers huge results and enormous potential for Scotland. And we do want to see far more done in the heat sector. We understand that there's an estimated £100,000 million to be spent on heat technologies over the next 40 years. That's a huge market, a huge opportunity. We published in 2014 a draft heat generation policy statement. It's a framework for investment, and there's many investors here, which is welcome. We have the target of 11% to meet non-electrical heat demand by renewable sources by 2020, as I've said. In 2009 we were at 1%. In 2012 we're at 3%. As the optimist that I am, that's an increase of 300%. But we've got a long way to go, and it's challenging. And not all of the drivers are in our competence. For example, the RHI, the Renewable Heat Incentive, is a UK government scheme. It's absolutely essential the RHI continues. If it doesn't continue, it strangle at birth an awful lot of innovation that has been built up on the existence of the RHI, and it would seriously curtail and impair the prospects of achieving success. I had the pleasure of meeting with one particular company that's preeminent in this field, Star Refrigeration, around about 18 months ago. And I did write to Dave Pearson, who I think is here earlier this year, to commend them on their Drammen project, which featured in a BBC online article, which gives you a flavour of what their work is. Heat pump extracts warmth from ice-cold water. What a great headline. But Star are a great modern Scottish success story, and as I say, I've had the opportunity to engage with them. I hope, incidentally, that I have the chance to meet with other companies, and if we can try and use such meetings to promote the work that you do, all well and good. We will also hear later from Zero Waste Scotland. Ian will talk about the circular economy, where instead of using things once and chucking them in the bin, we seek to reuse them and recycle them. And that's not just a green thing, but it's also great for the economy. And therefore, it's good for us to be in the lead here. Last October, The Guardian identified 5 countries on the circular economy as preeminent, and we are pleased to stand with Denmark, Netherlands, Sweden and Japan in leading the way. We've set up the Scottish Institute for Remanufacture, launched this year, bringing together business and academia. It's the first centre in Europe and one of only 4 in the world, alongside Singapore, New York and Beijing. We also support innovation in our young people, in schools, with a number of programmes working with the sectors and various industry and other university bodies. The framework Scotland Can Do is an excellent one, and we are trying to inspire young people to get involved in science, in innovation, and to do that we need to get them when they're young, before secondary school, to use the Glasgow Science Centre, which is doing a great job in explaining the wonders of science to people at primary school. Every primary school child in Glasgow, I think, gets a visit every year, and Judy Ray can talk about that. But we are investing in young people because their perspective in innovation, particularly harnessing IT, it will, I think, serve us well. So we are funding the Young Innovators Challenge, which this year has a focus on social innovation. And Dave Townsend, who's here, the founder and managing director of Town Rock Energy, a geothermal energy consultancy company presenting here at this event, was a winner of that challenge in 2013. So I'm delighted to see the progress that Dave has made since that award, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope that you get the sense that we are very keen to support you all in the work that you do, to support you directly through grant assistance or loan assistance where that is possible. And I've described just a few of the programmes that we have. There's many others I didn't touch, for example, on district heating. But we want to support you in that way. But above all, we want to see a Scotland where we are seen throughout the world as a centre of innovation that encourages innovation, is prepared to take calculated risks, and that will invest in innovation, and that where we work as a sort of modern triumvirate of the government, industry and academia working all together. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, could I again thank the organisers, Robert and Catherine, for bringing us all together today. That's a great thing in itself. And I have to depart to answer some questions in Holyrood in about an hour and a half's time. But I do wish you well for the rest of the day. Thank you.